So first day of the second test then between England and Pakistan at GS Bowl sees Pakistan restricted to 126 for 5, restricted because of the weather. Really disappointing today. There's been some showers around, bad light, only 45.4 overs were possible today. So time will be tacked on, of course, throughout the test match, but very frustrating. There's lots of storms around England today, as we know. Jimmy Anderson took the first 2 wickets to fall. His old friend Ashton Mashood was LBW for 1. That was 6 for 1 in the third over. Burns took the catch to dismiss Azhar Ali for 20, and the score was 78 for 2. But 2 catches had gone down at slip in the meantime. Abid Ali dropped on 1 by Sibley, on 21 by Rory Burns. Well, Burns made amends and caught him in the end off Curran for 60. Asa Shafiq was caught by Sibley, who'd also dropped one of the earlier ones off Broad for 5. That was 117 for 4. And having waited over 10 years to come out and play Test cricket once again, Fawad Alam got a 4th ball duck when he was LBW to Woakes. Interesting one, was given not out by the umpire, but in fact, England quite rightly reviewed it. It showed to be thumping fair and square into the middle stump, and that was about the point they went off, with Babar Azam still at the crease. He's batting, he's 25 not out, and played some lovely strokes actually. Mohammad Rizwan, the keeper, was on 4 when they all went off. So we've got Mark Ramprakash with me, got Asif Nawaz alongside me as well. Where do we start? Let's start with you, Mark. Shall we? England's day?
Yeah, England will be well pleased, actually, and in particular the selectors, whoever made the decision with Sam Curran, I think, at the top, because Zach Crawley coming in at number 3, you'd say, OK, he's a direct replacement for Ben Stokes to go out the side. But, of course, he's not yet of the pedigree of a Ben Stokes. And so that would still concern the England selectors that they were light on batting. So Curran comes in, yes, albeit at number 8, but he has some batting pedigree. And in addition to that, the forecast for this game seems to be this muggy, hot conditions. He's a swing bowler. And England have got their selections right. They left out the 90-mile-an-hour bowler in Archer.
Yes.
And so they've got the 4 bowlers in there. And so it's funny, though, that Pakistan won the toss. I think it would have been not a straightforward decision for Azhar Ali to bat, but I think Joe Root said he was going to bat. But as it happened, that worked out well for England, yes, because there was some early movement. In these overcast, heavy conditions, it swung around. And Jimmy Anderson, of course, needs no second invitation. And I thought it was a classic piece of bowling from him to dismiss Masood. In the past, he has been out fencing away from his body, mainly from round the wicket. But of course, with Jimmy Anderson, you know that he can swing it both ways, and right arm over the wicket, just a little bit of movement back into the left-hander, and that was good enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think there have been many captains we've got 2 quick bowlers in your locker, in Archer and Wood, would choose neither of them. I mean, I think most captains would like to have a bit of firepower, wouldn't they? So it's an interesting choice from that perspective too.
And Chris Silver would have said, that in the future, they wanted to try and integrate Archer and Wood, maybe not together, but certainly at times they wanted to play those guys, get some games into them, with a sort of eye on the future, really, of Test cricket, and particularly England playing away from home, where the wickets can be dead or in the batsman's favour, and they need a point of difference. So they've spoken about that. And I felt with this pitch, it would have some pace and carry in it. So it was a little bit of a surprise to not see one of those guys included. And I felt that if the pitch flattens out, and it looks a good pitch, but if it flattens out and it loses that moisture and the sun really comes out, let's hope that they don't regret leaving out that type of pace.
Yes, interesting. Atif, let's look at Pakistan's selection, shall we? I felt a bit sorry they left Shadab out. I liked him at Manchester. A young lad, seemed to have some character. I know he's learning leg spin and so on. I'm not sure they used him very well, actually, up there, but he's got something. And the way he batted in the first innings, too, really busy innings. It was like quite a mature innings, actually, where someone's only played a handful of Test matches. I thought he looked really good, but he's made way for Fawad Alam, bless him, who came out after 10 years and got a blob. I mean, it can happen to anybody. But I wonder if they all look at that and just wonder. They were trying to strengthen their batting, weren't they?
That was the idea, yeah. Because Fawad is a frontline batsman, and Shadab is sort of a spinning all-rounder, and he was really brought in for that first Test match because they wanted to give themselves the option to play 2 spinners, maybe sort of looking ahead to workload a little bit. Although yesterday Waqar Younis did say that they're not worried about workload or anything like that. These guys haven't played Test cricket for 5 months, so they should be ready, raring to go for the back-to-back matches. But yeah, it was a little little bit harsh on Shadab, but you understand trying to bolster the batting. And someone like Fawad, there's been a lot of campaigning to get him into the side. He's got this incredible first-class record, average in the late 50s. And been topping the batting averages in the Pakistani domestic scene for many, many years, and a huge fan base as well, and a very vocal fan base.
Yeah, so I was wondering how they're going to take that duck.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel really bad for them. It's kind of anticlimactic after 11 years, I imagine. But he's done quite well he was brought back into the squad last year, and during that Sri Lanka tour of Pakistan, the first time Pakistan hosted Test cricket in quite some time. He was in the squad, but he never made the starting 11 because all the other batsmen were performing. So Misbah was left with this weird dilemma of this bizarre paradox of choice that you don't really have as a Pakistan selector often, that our batsmen are too good. Who do I drop? It doesn't often happen, but it happened, and he was the guy who suffered because of it, because he couldn't find a space in the starting 11. So they will have been under immense pressure to play him, especially considering that second innings in the previous Test match where they kind of fell away.
Yes.
They lacked a bit of batting depth, just a cool head in there. And despite the fact he's only played like 2 or 3 Test matches for Wahid Alam, he's still considered, a seasoned professional, an experienced hand in the team. So they will have thought he would have added that, and that's gonna sting a lot for him.
Yeah. He has got an extraordinary stance. I mean, you cross Peter Willey with Shivarine Chanderpaul, and you're sort of getting somewhere there. But it's a coach, Mark. I mean, and a former batsman. Let's start with the batting side of it first of all. I mean, why do people do that? Why do people? Because actually, I mean, he does get into a reasonable place when it really matters. But I mean, whoever suggested that to him, or I wonder why he thought, "Yep, I'm going to stand like that. I'm going to stand like I'm playing baseball rather than cricket, and I'm going to see how I get on." It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as though the bowler was coming from sort of just wide of mid-wicket. Yes. That's how far round he is, how square on he is. I mean, I doubt if he batted like that as a youngster. I'd be surprised, because whenever you see other people play, they don't stand like that.
No.
So how do you come across that style, and how come you feel that works for you? I mean, just purely from a technical point of view, I like simplicity because it tends to repeat easier day in, day out. So if you're facing mid-wicket, as he was, yes, he makes an initial movement back round just before the point of release. So he has a sort of a trigger and a foot movement that gets him more round into an orthodox side-on position just before release. But my question to him would be, well, what is the size of that movement on a Monday? Does it differ on a Wednesday?
Yes, exactly.
And then on a Friday? And so how can you be consistent? How can you know where your off stump is all the time? I mean, he's got so far to go with his front foot to get round to the off stump, which is where most deliveries are going to be. Why?
And the timing of it too has got to be absolutely spot on.
The timing, absolutely,
a
great point. Yeah, the timing of that big movement across, and so are you making the game easier for yourself? I'd cast doubt on that.
But it's also interesting because, I mean, Lasith Malinga wouldn't have seen anyone bowling like he bowled, would they? I mean, he would have saw someone on the telly running in and bowling with an arm down there. So,
yeah,
I don't know, but it is funny watching. So, would you try and change it then? If you Yunus Khan, would you be saying, "Come on, Fawad"?
I don't really coach in that way. I'm always would be asking questions of the player. I might have some footage of where he's perhaps, where it hasn't perhaps worked for him, show him and ask him about it. I mean, look, if a player reaches this level, they've got every right to, they've been selected for a reason, so they've got every right. It's their career. They must go out and play the way they want to play and take ownership of that. But as a coach, I think you're there to help be a sounding board for the player, obviously to encourage and build a rapport and a relationship where hopefully you can have an open discussion.
Yes.
So if for example, I can remember having conversations with Johnny Bairstow about facing Ishant, with the big in-swingers. And, Johnny was talking about which guard to bat on, and some of the players were saying, well, get over to the off stump, and others were saying, no, bat on leg stump, let it swing in, and then play it. So that's the sort of conversation you're having, which is more a tactical thing. I wouldn't really want to get into the technical side because you're hoping you don't have to address that at this level. But I would say that in England, starting in that position, he's got a lot of work to do to get himself in a better orthodox position at the point of release and to know where his off stump is.
It's always fun to see something different, though, isn't it? I think I'd like seeing something that you go, whoa, what is this?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember as a young man, I remember watching the Under-15s Cricket World Cup, and there was a bowler who could bowl with his left arm and right arm.
Oh, yes, I remember him.
And he was a Pakistani bowler as well.
Yes.
So we definitely make the unusual people a bit more mainstream in Pakistan. But yeah, I mean, if you watch, it's interesting because when we watched him take his guard for the first ball, Phil Tufnell was on, and he sort of broke out into hysterics. And as we got off afterwards, he's like, "Was he always like that?" I'm like, "I don't think he started his career like that." So we looked back at his footage of his first Test match, and he's got a much more conventional stance.
Right.
So he's definitely made an adjustment over the years. And I remember seeing some of him in the warm-up games, and he did have a weird stance, but I didn't know if he was just trying it out or so on. And you can find footage of the Qaid Azam Trophy, the domestic tournament in Pakistan, and see how he bats there. But as Mark says, if somebody accumulates an average of 57, works their way into what is a strongish, certainly in context, batting lineup, it's hard to question their technique. And Yunus Khan, from all indications, is the kind of coach that is very positive as well. Like likes to encourage batsmen, and is more about the mentality than he is necessarily about the technique. Though, if anybody was going to critique technique, you take a critique from a man who scored 10,000 plus Test runs. Yes. Surely, yeah, it is fun to watch. To answer your question, I quite like it, and I kind of hope we get to see more of it in the series.
Talking of batting, how do you think Azhar Ali's 20? I mean, 85 balls. But did it answer any questions? He's under pressure, isn't he?
Yes, he's under intense amounts of pressure and scrutiny back home in Pakistan. All the talk shows, as we talk about, they've got a lot of negative things to say about his captaincy and his performance with the bat. He would have been hoping for a few more than 20, but sadly, from him, he couldn't really get past. And, England bowled really well at him. They kept him quite contained. They kept the ball quite full, allowed it to swing in those conditions. It was very difficult to bat through it. And, getting 20, it shows technique to an instance. But a player of that class, somebody who's got a 100 to his name, you expect more, particularly given the context and in that leadership role. I think people are going to be looking at him with a microscope in this Test match. And, wherever the result might be, he's going to be under fire if he doesn't do something special in the second innings.
And Babar Azam to get out tomorrow, Mark.
Well, a lot of cricket supporters would hope not, because we enjoy watching him bat. I mean, he's one for the purist. He does make the game look easy. Yeah. Such a talent. But yeah, you'd think Pakistan's fortune is
anything straight.
Right.
He's ruthless, isn't he? Round middle off.
Yeah, and he's one who's getting over to off stump. I mean, he's in a much more orthodox position than Anam. But you're right. If he will back himself, if the ball's on the stumps, he's going to back himself to score through the leg side. And if he does do that, then the bowlers won't go there, and he'll be able to leave the ball in a much easier way.
The TMS Podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
Let's get some England reaction then, shall we? Sam Curran has been speaking to Eleanor Oldroyd.
Well, Sam, how do you feel about the way you turned things around today?
Yeah, it was good. I think obviously when they won the toss and batted, so obviously it was a big responsibility as a bowling group to try and put pressure on them. I thought we bowled really well. Obviously, to finish the day 120 for 5 was great for us, and especially when them being 90 for 2 was a great comeback, and I thought everyone bowled really well.
How did it feel for you being back in that team again?
Yeah, it was great. Obviously, waited a bit of time, but there's such good competition for places at the minute, so it's all about trying to take the opportunity, but not trying to put too much pressure on myself, but at the same time just enjoy playing for England. It's such a great feeling. I was out there today and I just really loved being back with the guys and just being involved, and yeah, it was great.
Do you know what was in the selectors' minds giving you that recall?
To be honest, it was quite a late call. I've always felt like I've been in and around, so anytime you get the opportunity, they spoke at the start of the summer about rotating the seamers, and I think that's probably what they were thinking, give Joff a little bit of a rest. So yeah, it was just great to be back in the side, and hopefully we can get those wickets early in the morning.
Absolutely, and the rain interruptions today, it's always frustrating, isn't it? How did you all cope as a group?
I think, to be fair, training this week was really warm, and coming to this week, we've looked at the forecast. I think it's going to be like that throughout the week, where on and off, but it's about catching those key moments when we're out there, because it's not ideal as a bowler when you 3 balls into your over and you have to come off, but the main thing is to make sure when we do start after those breaks is make sure we don't just ease into it, make sure we're on the money first up.
So what's the target for tomorrow? Get through those other 5 wickets quickly as possible?
I think so. It's as soon as we can. I thought we bowled really well at the end of the day. We got 3 quick wickets to finish the day. And so, yeah, Babar's probably their big player as well, so we try to get him. But, yeah, I think just try and make advantage of that first hour and hopefully get some big runs.
And a word about Jimmy Anderson. He's now 592 Test match wickets and counting.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's obviously gives me goosebumps to be out there playing with him. He's obviously England's best bowler and leading wicket taker, so it's pretty amazing to just try and keep learning from him. And I think he proved everyone wrong. He's such a world-class bowler, and could even be this game. He might get 600, who knows? But yeah, world class.
Did he seem extra motivated by all the people writing him off?
I don't think so. I think it's just I was pretty surprised there was even people talking about that. I think his numbers and wickets sum him up, and he's a great guy to learn off for me as a young bowler, and just got to keep picking Jimmy and Broady's brains, because it's just a great feeling to be out there learning from them.
Brilliant stuff, Sam. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.